Welcome back then folks to the second build of day 3 of Special Projects pack number 7. Of course this time a bit more of an obscure pick. Of course we've featured a few Vipers now in Special Projects, this time another SRT-10 Coupe based build, which of course we based the ACR on as well. This time the one-off McLaren spec Viper. If you're not familiar with it, it's of course a more hardcore, more modified, more carbon-heavy version of the Viper, tuned by, as the name suggests, McLaren. The McLaren ASC Viper Diamondback is its full name. It's more powerful, it's lighter, and of course it's quicker as well. In terms of the visuals, of course I will have put on screen that you can grab the player's livery design for this one down in the description, as always. And there are a few different people, of course, as you would expect, that have done this one, but this is the best one that I could see. It's nice and accurate to the real car, even down to the oversized wheels. As far as the actual tuning, it's not that much crazier than a normal Viper, so you don't have to put a ridiculous amount of money into it. We've got the sports silencer purchased, but you don't need to get that one, because this is one of those occasions where I fitted a couple of different ones to see which got the best results, so you can ignore that one completely. We'll come to the exhaust in a second. You want your sports pads, the stage 1 weight. I've opted to leave it on sports hard tyres, because of course it is still a street car at the end of the day. We've got the sports clutch and flywheel, the sports discs, the power restrictor and ballast, mostly for when you might need them for certain events, plus they're pretty cheap to fit anyway. As far as the semi-racing stuff, you want your racing crank, which technically is a bit of overkill compared to the real car, but of course we've got to get it to those real-world numbers. The fully customised ECU, the semi-race exhaust is the one that you actually want. As far as the diff, we've gone for the fully customised limited slip diff, the height adjustable sports suspension. As far as the racing stuff, you want the racing air filter and the race manifold as well. Like I said before, to get it up to that right power output of 615 horses. For the extreme section, we've got nothing there, and for ultimate, more so to fit in with the carbon theme, more so than, reality, we've got the carbon drive shaft, just for a bit more carbon featured in there. As far as the actual tuning side of things, now with the parts fitted, if we jump back into the garage, we've got the sports hard tyres fitted. Of course, for the suspension, we've got the ride height on 110mm. Sounds quite high, but it's actually about right visually to the real thing. We've got 1, of course, because you can't adjust the anti-roll with this particular suspension. We've got 35 on the dampers, 45 for the rebound on the dampers. We've got 2.4 for the frequency, so not too high, 1 degree of camber, and of course, with the height adjustable, you can't change the toe, but it does already have a little bit of toe in on the back, which does help. As far as the diff, I've opted for 10, 30 and 20. You might want to play around a little bit. Personally, I find that works pretty well with this car, but each to their own. As far as the transmission, of course, that was stock. The power and ECU are untouched. You want 108 kilos of ballast, though, to bring us up to roughly the real-world numbers. Now, I say roughly because I wasn't able to find, at least from what I could see, an accurate description of the exact weight of this car. All I could see was that it drops the weight by around 85-ish kilos compared to the real-world car, which I think has slightly different numbers to what it does in Gran Turismo anyway. In another source I saw around 1,500 kilos, so that's what I've gone for, which is, about 3,500 pounds, somewhere around there. And I've put that 5% toward the front, which gives us a nice 49-51 split. As far as the downforce, you can't adjust the front. We've got the rear on 160, and of course the wing comes as a part of the design from the player anyway. And then for the stuff down here, you can see all of the stuff that we already fitted. So a relatively simple build once again. Most of my Viper builds do tend to be quite simple. We haven't done anything too crazy that I can remember in any of them so far, be it ACRs or otherwise. So, of course, with all of that done, and with the livery applied, all that remains is naturally to jump out to the track to show you what it can do in practice. As far as actually using this car, I would recommend 3 things in particular. You want to brake a little bit earlier than it feels like you should, turn in very hard, keep it on full lock for most of the corner, and roll on the power a little bit earlier than you might think, because it does have the grip. You just have to learn that it has the grip earlier than you might think, even on the sports hards. The drop in weight and the increase in power aren't crazy, as I said earlier on. 615 horses, 1,500 kilos. It is basically putting the Viper from sports car territory, or super sports car as I would call it, into full-on supercar territory. which of course having the McLaren and the carbon fibre and all that kind of connection is pretty appropriate. So for the Viper fan, for the Viper collector, or just for somebody who fancies trying something that's a bit different for their build series, then of course give it a go. You could potentially use it for racing as well. It's just over 600 points, so you could quite easily work that down to 600 with a little bit of changes. But of course, I hope you have a lot of fun with it. Naturally, check out the other Special Projects Pack 7 builds dropping this week, and of course the ones which have already dropped. And until tomorrow, I'll see you then. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.